Hello, and welcome to Tech Train. My name is Harry Jack, founder and trainer for Tech Train. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at an overview of Microsoft 365. If you don't already know, Microsoft 365 replaced the Office 365 subscription, and it gives the subscriber access to communication, collaboration, and productivity tools available from Microsoft. But we'll go into that more throughout the video. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're first going to take a look at what is Microsoft 365, and we'll take a look at some of the subscription types and what's available in those subscriptions. We'll also talk about how to access Microsoft 365. We'll take a quick tour of the Microsoft 365 portal, and then after that, we will wrap up with how to download the Microsoft 365 apps onto your desktop, whether it's a Mac or Windows device. It is also important to note that you can access Microsoft 365 and most of the applications from a web browser, and you can actually also access them from mobile devices like an iPad or your smartphone. But we're going to focus on the web today for Microsoft 365 and then downloading the desktop applications after that. Last couple things before we get started. There is no prerequisite knowledge of Microsoft software to follow along in this video. However, I do just recommend a basic understanding of how to use a computer and how to access things using a web browser. Also, one final note, I am using a Mac for my demonstration, as I always will, but most of the things that I'm going to cover today and most of the things across Microsoft 365 and in reality, a lot of software is going to be really similar. If there is anything that I can remember has a very distinct difference, I'll make sure to call it out. Okay, so let's get started with the first part of today's topic. What is Microsoft 365? So as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, Microsoft 365 is a subscription service offered by Microsoft, and it gives users access to productivity applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, communication and collaboration platforms like Teams and Outlook, and then also gives you access to things like OneDrive for cloud storage. So let's go ahead and head over to Microsoft's Microsoft 365 sites and take a look at the differences in the subscriptions and what's available within those subscriptions. Okay, so we are on the Microsoft 365 site, which is just one of Microsoft's sites. I'll add that link for you right here on the screen and also add it in the description below so you can click on it to check out what we're looking at right now. Microsoft 365 subscriptions are broken up into 4 different demographics. We've got Microsoft 365 subscriptions available for home use, business like small businesses, enterprise organizations, and also for education. If you click on one of these options down here at the bottom, and then you click on See Plans for Pricing, that's going to take you to other sites where you can get more details on what's included within those subscriptions. So I've got Home selected, and if I clicked on See Plans and Pricing, it'll take me over to our site for Microsoft 365 Home. There are 2 licenses available for Microsoft 365 Home use. We've got Microsoft 365 Family and Microsoft 365 Personal. Here in the descriptions, you can see all of the applications and services available within the licensing. The key difference between the 2 subscriptions here in home use is going to be that Microsoft 365 Family is a group subscription, so you can have up to 6 users within this license. Each of them get access to all the applications, and each of them also gets access to 1 terabyte of storage in OneDrive, whereas Microsoft 365 Personal is only for a single user. If we move over into Microsoft 365 for Business, again, this is for small businesses. Just like with the Home tab, you can go in and see what services and applications are available for the different licensing types. And the main difference between the licensing types here, Microsoft 365 Basic is only going to give you access to the web versions of applications, whereas the other 3 versions will give you access to desktop versions of applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. You can also read in further into these subscriptions to really find out which one is going to be the right one for you. Other than the difference in the web applications versus the desktop applications, The differences across the subscriptions for small business are going to be mostly focused around just how much of the Microsoft 365 suite you need. So, Microsoft 365 apps for business is really just going to give you access to those productivity applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, access to the Outlook application, and also access to OneDrive with a terabyte of storage. Important to note that Microsoft 365 apps for business does not give you Exchange, and so you can't use Exchange services to host a domain, for example. Now, with Microsoft 365 Business Standard for $12.50 per user per month, you have access to all those productivity applications, also access to Microsoft Teams and OneDrive, SharePoint Online, Exchange services. So you have kind of the full suite of Microsoft 365 applications and tools available to you. Upgrading a little bit further to Microsoft 365 Business Premium gives you everything with Microsoft 365 Business Standard, but also gives you advanced security features that are available through Intune and Azure Information Protection, for example. So next we have Microsoft 365 for enterprise organizations, and the link for this will also be in the description below. Now, Microsoft 365 enterprise plans are broken up a little bit further depending on sort of what area your enterprise fits into. So mostly the way that this is broken up is going to be into general commercial uses, and then there's also government uses. So if you are a government organization or work for a government organization, your plans will be different than the plans for, let's say, a clothing retail line. And once you go into the different plans here, there are going to be, again, just like small business, different levels of subscriptions, and these give you access to a variety of different applications as well as security features and support features available for your users. Now, if you're a user in an enterprise or government organization, it's important to note that you're not going to be paying for this subscription yourself. Your organization is obviously going to be paying that subscription fee. When it comes to actually purchasing the subscriptions for enterprise, you will have to use the links in the website to reach out to sales and sort of find out how to purchase from there. But that's something that you can do from the site for enterprise, which, as I mentioned, is going to be linked in the description below. So the last sort of type of Microsoft 365 subscriptions that are available is Microsoft 365 for education. Now, Microsoft 365 for education, just like our other versions, is going to have a couple of different subscription levels, and that will offer a variety of different tools available to educators as well as students. What's cool about Microsoft 365 for education is the applications like Microsoft Teams are slightly different than they are in a commercial environment to offer tools like assignments and grading for educators. And there's also access to specific tools for working with those students and things like Minecraft Education, which is a really cool educational tool for educators. So just like with commercial licensing, education licensing pricing isn't broken down on the website. That website you can find right here or also in the description below. So you will have to use the links on that website to reach out to sales and just get a little bit more information from them about how much it's going to cost. Again, typically this is a school district or a school itself that's going to be purchasing that licensing. So if you're a teacher, this is one of the things that you hopefully don't have to pay for your classroom. But I do recommend trying to pursue this because there are some really cool tools for engaging with students and also keeping up with your classroom in Microsoft 365 education. Okay, so we've talked quite a bit about what is Microsoft 365. We've talked about the different subscription types and licensing available to a variety of demographics. We've talked a little bit about some of the tools available within Microsoft 365, like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, Outlook, Microsoft Teams, and more, like OneDrive. And now we're going to move a little bit further into Microsoft 365 and talk about how we're actually going to access Microsoft 365 as a whole. Now, accessing Microsoft 365 is a little bit different than accessing the applications within Microsoft 365. When I say how to access Microsoft 365, I'm really talking about how to access a space for your entire subscription. And from there, you can then move out to applications within your subscription. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to pop into our web browser again, and we're going to go to our Office portal. A little bit confusing since they replaced Office with Microsoft 365. But either way, we're going to go into the Microsoft 365 portal, and we're going to log in and take a quick look at what we've got there. Okay, so in order to access our Microsoft 365 portal, I guess the primary way to access the Microsoft 365 portal, first thing we got to do is just open our web browser. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Google Chrome, and then I'm going to go to portal.office.com. Once you go to portal.office.com, it's going to ask you to sign in with your Microsoft 365 account. If you're at an organization, this is going to be an account that's provided for you. However, if you are using Microsoft 365 family, for example, you may have to go through the create process to set up your Microsoft 365 subscription if it's the first time you're logging in. But once you've got an account set up, you can type in your username, click on next, and then you can type in your password, sign in, and that will ask you if you want to stay signed in. This is just one of those typical prompts to reduce the amount of times you have to type in your information. And then you will be brought into your Microsoft 365 homepage. So the Microsoft 365 homepage at portal.office.com is going to be this central hub where you can find everything available within your Microsoft 365 subscription. There are a couple key places to look within this Microsoft 365 portal, a couple of key areas. So let's go ahead and just take a peek at those. The place that I usually like to start is over here in the main sort of space. And from top to bottom, we'll see things like recommended files based on files that we've been working on recently. And then we'll have quick access down at the bottom, which will show us a list of all of our files, maybe recently opened files, files that I have shared or have been shared with me, and then files that maybe I've marked as a favorite. So for example, back on my all files, I can go in and choose to favorite one of these documents, and then that will show up underneath favorites. So it's easy for me to find documents that maybe I need to find quickly and often. With each of these documents down here, we've got a couple of links like what you just saw me click on. We've got our more options next to a document, which lets me do things like convert a Word document to a PDF, download a document to my device. I can also go in and open this document and choose where I want to open it. I can share this document with other users in a variety of different ways. We're not really going to go into the details on all these options since we're just really looking at an overview of Microsoft 365 today. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to move over to our navigation menu. And this is where you're going to be able to find your applications within Microsoft 365. So if I go over here onto the left-hand side, you can see all of the applications or all of the main applications available within the navigation bar. This is going to show my fundamental productivity applications like PowerPoint, Excel, Word, Teams, and Outlook. This may vary slightly for you depending on which subscription you have. For example, if you have one of the subscriptions that doesn't have access to Teams, you're not going to see the Teams application here in this bar. Also, if you're not an administrator for your Microsoft 365 tenant, you're not going to see applications like Admin. There are a couple of other applications or tools in here, like going to My Contents to see your files across Microsoft 365, and Create, where you can quickly create documents across the different applications available to you, like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Forms, OneNote, and more. You can also click on that Home button right here, and that will take you back to your main Microsoft 365 homepage. Up in the top left, we've got one of our little waffle menus. And if you click on that waffle menu, that's going to open up the applications that are in your Microsoft 365 subscription. You'll see a few more applications here than you saw in that little navigation bar a minute ago. But if you want to see all of your applications, you can go to Explore All Your Apps, click on that, and it's going to show you all of your applications available within your Microsoft 365 subscription. Again, just like with our navigation bar that we looked at, the applications that show up in this menu may vary slightly from what you're seeing on my screen, and it just depends on which applications are available in your subscription type. Also, if you work at an enterprise organization, applications can be limited by your administrators, so some applications may have been turned off by the admins in your organization. So, from our application menu right here, if there's an application that I want to use on the web, for example, I want to go and use Word on the web, I can go ahead and just click on that from here, and that will open up Microsoft Word's menu within Microsoft 365. This is where I can start a new document either by using a blank template or one of the many templates available from Microsoft 365. I can also see recommended files, files that I've worked on recently, or I can then see a list of all of my other files, just like we saw on our Microsoft 365 homepage, except this is going to be focused specifically on Word documents. So if I open up an existing document just by clicking on it over here, that's going to open up in Word Online, and we'll get an idea really quickly of what Word Online looks like. We've got it in dark mode right now, so if I go into View, I can go ahead and just switch this back to our standard white mode. That's going to pick up the defaults of your web browser, so it's quick and easy to go in and change. We're not going to go into details on how to use the Microsoft 365 applications today, and we're not actually really going to dive into any more of the applications in this video. But one of the things that I do want to highlight about Microsoft 365 is a really cool feature called co-authoring. And this basically means that I can go in and share a file with other users inside my organization, or depending on my sharing permissions at my organization, I may also be able to share outside my organization. Co-authoring is going to give me the ability to share access to a document that other people can go in and edit in real time. This is something that users can do on the web, or they can do on the desktop application, and so you don't need to even have a subscription in order for someone to share a file with you and to collaborate on real time. Co-authoring is a really handy feature that I really like about Microsoft 365, and while I'm not going to talk about it more in this video, I'm definitely going to dive into it deeper in some of our other videos on Microsoft Teams, or maybe even a video, just focused on co-authoring within Microsoft 365. But anyway, to continue, if we want to get out of this document on the web, all we have to do is close out of the tab, and that will take us back to our Word menu within our Microsoft 365 portal. We can click on that home button to go back to our home page, and that brings us back to our Microsoft 365 homepage. There's a couple of other things within the Microsoft 365 home that I just want to touch on really quickly. One of those is our search bar up top. Now, search within Microsoft 365 is a really powerful tool because it goes beyond just typing in keywords and hoping to find a result. Here within the search bar, I can search for document names, I can search for other people in my organization, I can search for SharePoint sites, and it will provide me with a list of different results. So if I, for instance, type in the word training and hit enter, it's going to show a list of results, whether those are files, sites, people, anything else in our organization. Now, this organization is fairly new, and so results are limited, but as an organization grows and expands, these search results will also expand. One of the really cool things about search within Microsoft 365, if your organization or your business uses Microsoft Teams, is search can also search using keywords through messages and Teams and channel posts. So whenever you're looking for maybe a specific part of a conversation, you don't have to go through and scroll through a million messages. You can actually just go in and search for a keyword, and that'll help you narrow it down. We're going to be looking at that a little bit further once we actually get into Microsoft Teams, but it is something that I wanted to call out before we move on. So the last few things that we'll look at here in the Microsoft 365 portal before we move on to the next phase is going to be customization and settings. So we'll start off with customization by going up here into the top right-hand corner and clicking on our little settings cog. This is going to open the settings for my Microsoft 365, where I can do things like change the theme, I can change my language and time zone, I can switch to dark mode if I wish, and I could also even go in and do things like change my password for Microsoft 365. Now, changing your password and updating your language and time zone, things like that may be limited by your organization if you're in an enterprise. So keep that in mind. If we go up here to our profile, for me, it's my initials. When we click on that, we can go into View Account. And when you view account, you'll see your Microsoft 365 account profile. Now, one of the really important things to note about this account profile information, if you are at an enterprise organization or an education organization, for example, these settings are more than likely going to be pretty limited and managed by your organization's IT department. So what you're seeing on the screen here, if you're at an enterprise organization, a government organization, or an educational institution, a lot of this may not be available to edit for you, and that may be something that you have to go through your IT department or your HR department to modify. So for security reasons, I'm not going to really dive into the information on this page, but you can see here I have access to security info, devices that are associated with my account, passwords, my organization's settings and privacy, my sign-ins, all that kind of fun stuff that is tied to my Microsoft 365 account. So this is where you could come to manage all of this sort of information. To get out of this, we can go back to our waffle menu in the top left, and we can click on Microsoft 365, and that will take us back to our Microsoft 365 homepage, where we can move on to the next part of our video. So the last thing that we're going to look at today is how to download and install the Microsoft 365 applications that are associated with your Microsoft 365 license. It's important to download these applications from your Microsoft 365 portal because applications within Microsoft 365 can have different versions. So if you're maybe switching from a previous version of Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Office, that'd be way older, into a new one, there can be issues with logging into your account and it sort of authenticating that you have access to those applications. So I always recommend, even if you're switching from an older version, delete all the older applications off of your computer, come into your Microsoft 365 portal, and then install the applications from here. It will download all the applications that have desktop applications and that are available in your Microsoft 365 subscription. One important note before I move on, I did mention it will download all the desktop applications that are available in your subscription. There are quite a few applications within Microsoft 365 that don't actually have a desktop application. Microsoft Lists, for example, is one of those applications that only has a web version, which you can access from the Microsoft 365 portal. There are some pretty cool ways using browsers or operating systems to create web applications, but that's something that we'll talk about in a future video. So let's look at installing your applications from Microsoft 365. I already have my applications installed, so we may not be able to visually see the whole process going down, but let's run through it and see what we got. All right, so from the home page on our Microsoft 365 portal, we're going to go up here to the top right and see where it says Install Apps. We're going to click on there, and then it gives you two options. Now, for 99% of users, I would say go ahead and just go with Premium Microsoft 365 applications. Other install options gives you options for installing applications that are in another language, or you can specify which Microsoft 365 applications you want to install on your computer. Premium Microsoft 365 applications is just going to go ahead and install the whole package for you. That's the best thing to do. Some organizations may actually, if they're providing a device for you, may already have these applications installed for you, which is even better. But let's go ahead and click on Premium Microsoft 365 apps. We'll get a pop-up letting us know that these applications have started downloading, and we can see in our downloads queue that there is a package that is working on installing right now. So once that finishes downloading, we'll be able to open that download package and go through the install process, which is actually neatly outlined for us right here in the images of the pop-up that we get when we click download. The download's going to be taking a second for me, so once that download finishes, we'll go ahead and move on with the next part. All right, so our download has finished. We can go ahead and click on the download package here, and that will open up our download package. The download process may be slightly different between Mac OS and Windows, which I promised I would call out whenever anything came up like that. But just follow your operating system's standard install process. The Microsoft 365 installer is a really simple installer to use. So we'll go ahead and just go through our process, continue. You can read the licensing agreement if you'd like to. I will go ahead and just continue through this. And on a Mac, I can choose where to install this, to install it for all users. And then I could choose my specific install location, or when I'm ready, I can click install. Now, I already have the applications installed on my device, and so I am not going to continue in this process, but if you do want your applications, make sure that you go through the install. And that is it. Once you've finished the install, the Microsoft 365 applications that are available in desktop versions will be available for you to access. Make sure you go into those and confirm that you're all signed in and ready to go. But you shouldn't have any issues signing in if you installed the applications from the Microsoft 365 application, as it should automatically authenticate your account associated with the applications. And that also really concludes our video today. So we talked about what Microsoft 365 is. We also talked about how to access Microsoft 365 on the web. We took a tour of the Microsoft 365 portal, and then we talked about how to install the Microsoft 365 applications. There is also a Microsoft 365 app that is available on mobile devices like iPad, your iPhone, your Android phone, and I believe it's also available on Windows 11. The application does not work on Mac OS. I had tried it out earlier, but it's a pretty cool application. If you want to check it out, it really just kind of brings everything in Microsoft 365 available into one space where you can quickly start documents. On the mobile versions, you can even scan items and then turn them into PDFs. And you can quickly access your OneDrive folder, for example, all from one application. So check out that Microsoft 365 application. Boop, here's going to be an icon. And that is a pretty cool little addition to your mobile device if you need to work on the go. And lastly, I do just want to say a really big thank you for sticking around and checking out this video. As this YouTube channel is really just starting to get off the ground, it's really important for me to see every single viewer and every single subscriber. So thank you so much. Please make sure that if you are interested in following along on more of the learning content that comes out, that you subscribe to the channel, make sure that you like videos that you're watching, and you can even set your alerts as well so that you're notified whenever new messages are, new videos are posted. We've also got a LinkedIn, which you can get to from the link that's going to be popping up here on the screen, or you can check out the link below to go and follow along on LinkedIn. I'll be posting on there every time we post a new video, and I'd really love to, communicate with you guys there on LinkedIn, as well as here on YouTube. So make sure that you comment below these videos and let me know what other topics you'd like me to do training videos on. I'll be going through Microsoft 365 applications now as we're getting started. The next video is going to be an introduction to Microsoft Teams, which is a really great application that has so much utility and so many different things that you can do within Microsoft Teams. So we'll get started with the basics and then have some videos diving in deeper there. But thank you again so much for watching the video and subscribing to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.